Hi, folks. RC Scott here. You might remember me from such stories as Skin Auction and Morning Drive. This afternoon, I have a special guest with me, Adrian. Hello. Introduce yourself. Welcome. And I believe you are frozen, Adrian. Frozen with your gulp cup. It's all right. Well, oh, here we go.
Am I back?
You were unfrozen, sir.
My Wi-Fi, dude. Oh my God! Right in the middle of the way to make a first impression, Adrian. I'm Adrian Santiago. I'm the author of the Mythic series. The prologue to the main novel is already available as an ebook or paperback through all your favorite booksellers. It's called The Death and Rebirth of Bella Erdman. Please check it out. Leave a review, all that kind of good stuff. The ebook is only 99 cents. And it comes with 3 sample chapters from the upcoming novel, which releases April 30th. So Mythic Shadow of the Spark, April 30th. You can pre-order already on some booksellers. Yay!
Do that, folks. And since you're among the wrenched, if you wouldn't mind dropping any link to your heart's content, feel free, sir.
In fact, there should already be some in there if it didn't erase it from before.
It probably did.
Let me take
StreamYard
a look.
is weird. But
Take a look.
Don't feel bad about it. A lot of people don't know this, but my unofficial YouTube debut was on a French channel. It was early Sunday morning and I was drunk.
Okay.
It was supposed to be, we were talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier or whatever, and I hadn't watched it yet, and I kept changing the subject. Like, I do, but like 1,000 times worse. So if you ever want to feel bad for making first impressions, think of me.
Well, let me drop those links in the chat for you.
Drop a link. Let's get to the people in the chat while we're at it. Of course, Richard's first. Yeah, and like I said, you shouldn't be looking forward to seeing me. I don't know why. Hearing me, though. Isolated and weird. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for the boop. Thanks for coming. Butter on a bagel, Adrian.
Butter on a bagel, indeed. I saw that thumbnail and it made me smile ear to ear.
I never forgot that when you said that to me. So it's kind of like
Wait, I said that?
Yes, you did. The first time you heard me on I think it was Shannon's stream, and you just you exploded in the chat. I don't know what happened to you, man. His voice. What's that voice? It's like butter on a bagel. I'm like, okay.
It does sound like something I would say. I really have no recollection of this, but that's fantastic.
Well, while you're hung up on my voice, this guy's hung up on my face. He just wants to see me. I told you, man, you got to subscribe to my OnlyFace account. $10 a month.
That's
$20 a month. I'll do a video chat with you. You're right. You do have a handsome face.
Oh, please!
You got the mane, you got the beard.
With all this, with the patchy beard. I cover it up with the mane. I just do this. I'm like, yeah.
That avatar isn't the way it is just by chance. I definitely got a baby face going. It's a mix with a lot of things, but a lot of Cherokee. I guess that's what my grandma was blaming it on. At least.
Oh, cool.
And I would get that's when I was like, what the fuck? Why isn't this happening? Why do people got beards and I don't? But anyways, same thing. Like a little like Christian Bale, mustache, chin, the rest, patches. I'll get like one thick Wolverine type of mutton chop on one side, and the other side would be like a hole in it.
Yeah. I got a hole in one. I forget. I think it's this one.
What up to my boy Trinity over in SoCal?
What's up, yo?
Y'all want to follow his channel? He talks, comics, indie stuff like that. Nice. Honest reviews. He doesn't shill the shit.
Price war.
Get that bloody price war. Wow.
Yeah, so the website on the main page, there's a link right there to the short story. There's another link right there to the pre-order for the novel. So main page, right up front, easy to find.
So butter on a hot cross bun is very British, but what about mashed peas on a hot dog, Richard? For all don't know, I'm doing a
do
blog
this.
on my Substack. Personally
Let's not
attacking
do
Richard
this.
in his native country called England Travails, where I chart my journey through that place and all the weird shit I find. First blog being mashed peas on hot dog. And someone from Chicago that gets pissed off over ketchup, you wouldn't believe how I felt about this. Oh, yeah, this guy. But you know what, dude? You pull it off, though, man. You got that straight Lex Luthor look. And you can grow a fucking beard, so shut up.
Yeah, you see those dudes with like that thick beard that almost looks fake. It almost looks like they're wearing a thing on their face. And you're like, how do you grow that much facial hair? And he's like, I just shaved it like 3 days ago. There's like 3 days of growth. I'm like, man.
My one friend had a beard in the 7th grade.
He was probably the guy that bought everybody beer, right?
Yes. But not only that, as soon as that happened, he just changed his look immediately from just kind of like a dorky looking kid to straight up leather biker, all dark. And I was like, hey, man, do it.
Yeah.
Why not? If you feel like that fits you.
If you got it, flaunt it. That's what I always say.
But, I mean, some people don't look right with a beard too, even if they can grow it. Like you said, you know, it almost looks fake, like that episode of Beavis and Butthead when they cut off their hair and tried gluing it to their faces. Damn, we're smooth.
Man, I haven't thought about Beavis and Butthead in a long time.
You didn't know they had new episodes out?
No, I was never a huge fan or anything, but I would catch it sometimes when I was flipping channels. Kids at home these days don't know what that is, but yeah, we used to flip channels and just stumble across stuff like, oh, Beavis and Butthead is on. I'll watch for a while.
MTV in the 90s. I just remember marathons of Beavis and Butthead, Liquid Television, MTV Oddities, and videos when the music was still good, like 120 minutes, stuff like that.
Let me see if you remember this, because I tell people about this and they don't believe me. They think I'm making this shit up. There was a thing called The Box, and it was a channel, a music channel, and they would have like a list of songs going up and down the side of the screen with like a number code on them, and then you would call their 1-800 number, and you would, or 900 number, whatever it was one where you had to pay for it. It wasn't an 800 number. It was a number you had to pay for. You call the number and you enter the code of the song, the music video that you want to watch, and then you like wait, like requesting a song on the radio. You would wait, and after a few like videos, the video you requested would play, and it would be like yay, and then my parents would beat the crap out of me with a shoe for spending money that they didn't have on these stupid.
Yes, I was going to say, I remember this, and I remember going to use the phone, and my mom sitting there, in the front room with me. It's like, you touch that phone, call that number, you're dead. Okay, not calling the box. No box in my life.
I called the box a lot before I found out that was not okay. By the time they got the bill, it was bad.
It was the Corey hotline.
It was bad.
I'm trying. I think Metal Edge magazine had this hotline. I used to call and try to bullshit with people, but it was so annoying because that's where you get all the purists.
I don't.
It's not black metal. It's straight from Norway. Yeah. But I remember that, but mostly MTV. Headbangers Ball. Oh my god.
Yeah, sure. Headbangers Ball. That was a big one.
I think I was like 7 or 8 when that came out, and it's like right in the summertime too. I just caught that shit as soon as it aired. Anthrax, Sepultura. You had what was that guy? Ricky.
The two of us just became the two.
The two. My man's frozen, man. Don't worry. I believe he will come back. But yeah, MTV back in the day, Headbangers Ball. For y'all that remember, that was the good times. Back when they were real about the music, honest journalism in music. They didn't mind voicing their opinion, not just shilling the next asshole created by some record company. I'm sure some of them were created by a record company, though. That didn't really happen until like later on. But man, it sucks. Bad Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is holding on right now. I can at least say that for myself. It has been overcast in Chicago for 2 days now. It was blizzard like hell outside. I don't know if y'all are in the Midwest. Y'all get hit by the blizzard? Oh, no. There goes Adrian. Come back, sir, when you can. Get it back. That Wi-Fi. Yeah, anyways, it blizzard like hell last night. I'm out in the city. Yeah, me too. Trinity, I remember seeing the Metallica video 1 And like a year later, seeing Headbangers Wall Pub, seeing that more often, seeing like Pantera, Suicidal Tendencies. Richard, Adrian seems to be having internet difficulties, and he was freezing up. But I'm sure he'll fix it and be back. Until then, I'm going to try to do this by myself for the first time to see how the hell it goes. How long I can rant and rave at you folks before you get tired of hearing it and you leave. Barrett, what is up, my fellow Midwesterner? How did you do last night with that storm? It hit Chicago like around 9 o'clock, right when I was getting done with dinner. And just bam, waiting on a 25-minute delayed train in the loop on the Orange Line to get back to Midway on the south side. It sucked. I had to hide behind this little sliver of wall. Yeah. But that's just the Midwest for you. It can snow all the way to May. Now I have nothing to look at, and this becomes a podcast. Yes, Richard, nothing but my disembodied voice. Unless you want to come on and talk. That's one thing. In case he doesn't come back, which I hope he does. If anyone wants to come on, let me know. I'll shoot them the link. Bullshit about something. Get something out of this. I didn't put away 2 hours of time to do nothing. Even though I can go do something else, but still. Try to get some out of this. You do not. Well, nothing's keeping you here, Richard. Because here in America, you have the freedom to make the choice to just leave. And take your tea with you. Might as well do some self-promoting while here. I never, ever do that on this shit. If you guys don't know, I write horror. I have some short stories out. First one's No Strings Attached. That was in October. And I did a midnight double feature, 2 stories, which would be Lake Eliza and Morning Drive. The next one was a novella, Skin Auction, about a teenage girl was abducted, put in the human trafficking ring, and things just get worse from there. Let's put it that way. It's pretty brutal. But other than that, I'm doing this shit, talking to people from different areas of my life. Got the Author 2 folks here with the Richard, the Barretts, of course, Adrian's, the Trinities from the comic book world. Getting y'all together to talk about cool shit. Because everywhere I look on YouTube nowadays, everyone wants to argue about something, or it's the next thing to jump on. Or what are you pissed about this week? Is it The Little Mermaid or is it Ninja Turtles? Who cares? It's nostalgia that should have died out a long time ago. As far as Ninja Turtles are concerned, other than the Secret of the Ooze and the video games, in the last Ronin books, I just don't care anymore. It's in the past. It's time to create new stuff. Same with Little Mermaid. I don't care who they cast to play her. They could have picked the palest, soulless ginger you can dig out of any unholy Cabbage Patch, and I still wouldn't see that fucking movie because I don't care. The only way you would get me to see Little Mermaid is if they did the original version, the dark version, where she loses her soul and turns into sea foam. In that case, they can cast this man to play Ariel, but I will go see it if he turns into sea foam. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, man. Hang on. I'm trying to... So I switched over to my phone, and I'm just using it, like, off of data, because my Wi-Fi is just garbage, man. I'm sorry.
It's all good, bro.
I'm back. What did I miss?
You missed me ranting and raving and actually plugging my stories for once in my life, because I never do that on my own channel or on social media.
Probably do that more. Yeah, you should probably do that more.
I think with all my stories, I plugged them like 3 times and just gave up. Like, fuck this. I'll just write something else and plug that.
Really? Why?
Well, I mean, they're not novels, shorts in a novella. I mean, how high do those sell? If they're anything, they're just to build a resume. Well, get better at writing.
It's not okay. You're not gonna. I mean, I got a short story thing out right now, and I'm not gonna make any money off of it. But I want people to read it. You want people to like read your stuff and start to formulate around you or whatever. If that makes sense.
It does, and I don't know if it's just me being
it's all marketing, man.
Lazy or myopic, but I will work on that. In the meantime, how did you get into writing? For the people out there who do not know,
how did I get into writing? I haven't always been an author, but I guess I've always been a writer. I've been writing since I was a kid, and English class was always my easiest subject, the one that I could
Same.
do the least amount of work in and get the highest grade in return for it. So the day before a big paper was due, I would throw something together and get an A or maybe a B plus on the low side. So like I always knew that I could write, and I was a big reader, especially when I was younger. I would read a lot, like something just like a monster, and
What was
always
your
ahead
read?
of. Well, like by like fifth grade, I was reading Michael Crichton novels. Like he
Ooh.
was my favorite growing up. I loved all his. I had to like read every book he would put out.
I've only read Jurassic Park.
That's the only one you've read?
That's the only one I've read.
Oh man, Sphere is a trip and a half.
Is
It's
it better than that
so
movie?
yes, but the movie is actually quite faithful to the novel. It's just a tricky thing to pull off. There's something about doing it in novel form that just works a little better, I think. But
Some
I don't
things
know.
don't transfer well, but at the same time, I
Yeah.
saw when it came out, so I was a kid. So like, I was like, this is a weird ass
Yeah,
movie.
it was probably over your head because I had read the book by the time I saw the movie, and I liked the movie enough, but I rewatched it recently and it was a lot better than I remember giving it credit for. So it
I
might just
pro-
have been, ahead of you.
yeah, I probably should give it a watch again. I mean, just for Samuel L. Jackson's sake.
Yeah. So Sphere's good, Terminal Man,
I heard Congo's good.
Congo's good. The book is good. The movie's not as good, but the book is very good. Actually, The Lost World is one of my favorites, and that's one that he didn't even want to write. Like, yeah, man, he's got so many good ones. Disclosure,
He wrote that.
yeah,
Nice. But yeah, I liked the novel's tone of Jurassic Park more than I liked the movie. I mean, yeah, they had to do the whole adventure, try to sell toys and all that shit, but
I mean that
it was
movie's pretty
darker.
classic, bro. That
Yeah.
movie's pretty classic. My kid was 5 years old, and I mean now he's almost 8, and there's Marvel movies that I won't let him watch. But at 5 years old, he was like, I want to watch Jurassic Park. And I'm like, all right, I think you can handle this. And we watched it. And he loved it. And I really thought like halfway through, I was like, oh, I made a mistake. This is going to get really scary. He was cool with it, man. The kids love dinosaurs. It doesn't matter if they're scary or not. So there's something magical about that movie.
Yeah. I mean, well, not to mention Spielberg just has that touch with some
Yeah,
movies.
man.
That wonder. But as a kid, I really wasn't denied much what I can watch other than things that are highly sexualized, like Showgirls, basically. But that didn't last. I'm 11 years old, just watching whatever I want. But I just remember, like, I'm just sitting here, like, watching Hellraiser. My mom wouldn't even, like, tell me to turn it off. She's like, I don't know why you watch this shit. Walks out of the room.
There's stuff like that where I just won't watch it because it's not my cup of tea, man. Like I've never watched Hellraiser, and I probably never will. I can't see myself sitting down to watch Hellraiser. That's not my speed.
Well, not only that, I've watched that movie with like people like in their 20s now, like my nephew and all that, and even people like my age and who haven't seen it before. And I don't know if like it was of its time or if it's nostalgia, but like a lot of people who haven't seen it and try to watch it older find it boring. I guess you have to like be. Well, I'm a big fan of Clive Barker
now. Movies are a very different thing now, and with external media getting shorter and shorter and shorter, movies are having to adapt. Scenes are quicker, cuts are faster, like everything. Dialogue is snappier. Like it's just they don't make them like they used to.
Well, they in the indie circuit, I would say probably. And I mean, I just saw that in.
But nobody's talking about the indie circuit. Who's talking about the indie circuit? Nobody. We're talking about pop culture movies.
Yeah. Well, indie is pop culture.
Indie is indie.
Which is part of
indie
pop culture. But before I get too lost here, but anyway, like I was saying, Jurassic Park, like I would love to have seen that novel version more in the movie because it was just darker and probably would have been really
good. Oh yeah, it's way scarier for sure.
But when it comes to Hellraiser, just the aesthetic, and it was on $1 million budget, and just the lore behind it, I've always been a fan of, and Christopher Young's score. Mama Ward, hello. She just got done streaming, and she's having her launch party.
Right
No
on.
problem.
It looks like my Wi-Fi's finally back, but I'm too scared to hook back up to the computer. I'm just gonna keep it like this for a while. How's my sound?
You sound fine, man. You sound a little
Good.
distant, but like you sound you're audible. I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm on the
Yeah.
AirPods. So
You good though?
cool.
Adega, what up? Mama War, if you're here, feel free to drop a link to your stuff. You are among my first inning. You're the three wise ladies to get wrenched first. Drop whatever
And
you
hey,
want.
you know what? If it is at all hard to hear me, by the way, just feel free to turn up my mic because since I can't hear me and you can, like, feel free to adjust me to where you need me.
No, you're good for right now.
Cool.
All right, so Michael Crichton books by
Yeah,
fifth
man.
grade, you say.
Oh
Where'd you go
yeah.
from there?
Eventually I discovered Lord of the Rings, and I read that like once a year, every year for a couple of years. After that, I was obsessed with it for a while.
My friend still does that every year.
Yeah, eventually when I got to Game of Thrones later on down the line, A Song of Ice and Fire, I read those several times through as well. I do that. Like when I find something that really like resonates with me, I'll read it over and over again. But what else? What else did I read?
Since you bring up that book, what'd you think of the last one, Dance of Dragons?
I like it. It's one of my favorites. It's probably like my number two, or it's up there. My number two or my number three favorite. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I think it's hard to top Storm of Swords.
That was good.
But
that was the sea battle one, right?
No, that was Clash of Kings.
Oh, that's right.
Storm of Swords was where the red wedding happens and the purple wedding.
Yeah.
All the weddings.
Well, I was talking Ben Pick and Richard about this yesterday, and they were saying that was the worst one. And I remember, I don't mean to out him right here, Ben using that book, Dance of Dragons, to prop up one of his pictures, and I'm just like, I just see you use a book to. I'll let it go. You invited me back.
That's funny.
And they said it's the worst one. I'm like, I mean, it's probably my least favorite out of them all.
I've never heard that. I've heard way more hate thrown towards Feast for Crows. It's definitely my least favorite. I don't think it's as bad as people say, but it's my least favorite. So
well,
I'm a little surprised to hear Dance of Dragons. It's not that less happens; is that I don't care about the characters as much. Like we're following a bunch of characters that I don't resonate with as much, and I feel like that's probably most people's experience of that book. You know,
I remember a chapter in that book that really rung out with me because I was just like, I was just getting ready to start being a writer, I guess you could say. Well, actively being one. Mm-hmm. Oh God, what's his name? Jon Snow's buddy from The Wall. That
Samuel Tarly.
Yeah. Here we go. Well, the chapter opens up with a saying. I was like, 1 foot forward, he moved on. But anyways, it was one of those where it ended with the same, like it would repeat that phrase throughout the chapter.
Sure.
Yeah, and at the end it was the same thing. And like I kind of ganked that a little bit for one of my stories. And
sure.
I like that. I wasn't, like I said, I'm not really educated when it comes to writing, other than what I've learned from you folks. And I guess I'm just learning things. I was learning things about knowing their names or how they go. I just thought that looked cool, and I should try that. You
had definitely learned, because I mean, one of the big pieces of advice that most authors give that I love to repeat is steal from everybody. Like, steal from everything that you love. Like if you enjoy the way that Neil Gaiman writes prose, try to write prose like Neil Gaiman. If you like the way that, like what I did with George Martin, I like the way that he structures his chapters and stuff. So I just copped that. I structured all my chapters that way. So yeah, man. Like eventually, you put enough ingredients together that you develop your own style over time, and then people are going to start emulating you a couple years down the road.
Sure, I think we all do that. I was just talking to somebody else about this a while back.
Musicians do it, artists do it, everybody.
Yeah. Well, he was saying like he was doing like a little bit of writing for like gaming and stuff like that. He's like, I'm kind of just ripping off of other stuff. I'm like, that's what we all do. Like with musicians, like you say, how many of them start off in cover bands? Alice in Chains, I believe, were a Slayer cover band before they got into the whole grunge sound.
Yeah, man.
That's what I heard. Don't quote me on this.
No, man. Like even Breaking Bad had like Godfather references in their episodes and stuff. Like everybody steals from everybody.
Well, Breaking Bad always to me seemed like it was modeled after some Greek tragedy. the whole story.
Breaking Bad is a huge like jambalaya. It's full of all kinds of stuff. It definitely has that in there. It's got Godfather stuff in there. It's got Scarface stuff in there. It's got everything.
Yes,
It's got westerns. Like it's a straight up western sometimes. Like it's comedy. It's
right.
Nuts. I love it.
Hey, May, thanks for coming.
What's up?
Can't borrow, adapt, or steal. Well, some people are just born gifted. They just have it original right out the gates. But I mean, at the same time, like with like some musicians and all that, when you're learning an instrument, what do you learn first?
Yeah,
other songs.
You learn songs other people wrote.
And same goes with writers. With No Strings Attached, to me, it's always been like a love letter to Clive Barker and the movies of Dario Argento. Lake Eliza is my kind of attempt at doing a Lovecraftian Eldritch horror story for the first time.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you know, I use the word steal because it's funny, but I'm not telling you to plagiarize. It's you know, like I see people in the chat talking about like it's homage. Like, yeah, you're paying homage. It's influences. Like they're influencing you, and you're learning from what they do, and you're trying to apply those lessons learned to your style. Like that's cool. Yeah.
And sometimes
anytime you read a book and somebody's like, "Oh, it's Brandon Sanderson-esque," it's like, well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man. It's just that flavoring, you know.
Not only that, but when it comes to art, hell, when it comes to a lot of things, there's no surefire 100% way of doing anything. Yeah, you can steal from many different styles as you like. Before I get too carried away, Shannon, thanks for making friends with the like button, or at least give it a handshake, high five, dap, whatever you want. Just
Margaret Pinard is in the chat, and we're doing her book right now during Tuber Book Club on my channel. So not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday we have the next episode coming up.
Does anyone put butter on digestives?
Digestives. What are digestives?
Food would be a digestive, I believe.
I mean, that's what I assumed, but it sounded like it was something specific.
I don't know, Adrian, but I do want to know.
It's got to be a British thing.
When did you write your first story?
I wrote some stories in high school for English class. I wrote some poetry back then, some songs. I was in like punk bands and stuff in high school and for a few years after.
That was the next thing we're going to talk about.
We'll get there, I guess. Yeah. So
fellow music guy will definitely bring that up.
So I was, you know, I've dabbled in different kinds of writing throughout the years. This isn't even necessarily, you know, being a novel writer, an author, wasn't necessarily what I thought I would do. I wanted to be a director a long time ago, and then I thought, well, you know, screenwriting is probably a good place to start. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to get a movie made, but I can probably get a comic book made. So then I shifted the scripting over to comic book stuff. So I just kept like evolving like what I was writing until I landed on like, oh, it's a novel. Okay, we'll do a novel.
That is cool and very interesting. Switching mediums on a story, sometimes you got to find the right fit for it. With writing, for me, it's always a slow thing. And welcome back.
Dude, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm not even on the Wi-Fi right now.
Well, it's obvious. The universe doesn't want us together. We'll bring forth the apocalypse, man.
I apologize for being so unprofessional.
Do you know whose channel you on? Have you ever met? Do you know what show you've been watching?
I still want to conduct myself with some sort of decorum.
All right, well, don't worry, man. There's no such thing as professionalism here. Just try to keep it somewhat classy. That's the way oh, good, man. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have my fair share of stumbles, fumbles, and crumbles while doing this. Probably things are going to dwarf what you...
No. I mean, the worst is when it the Wi-Fi drops out completely, like when you have a big show and whatever, like right before like I had to cancel a couple weeks ago a show like moments after it was supposed to start. Like I hate doing that, you know.
Do you know Lisa Daly, author tuber, best-selling coach Lisa Daly?
Sounds, the name rings some vague bell, but I don't know how familiar I am.
Well, I don't know if she's still doing sprints weekly, but anyways, when I dropped I've known her for a long time. She's one of the first people I met in the author tube community. When I first dropped No Strings Attached, she had me on to chat and do sprints. And it's funny because, well, for one, the communication issue, I'm not start passing blame, but I woke up 20 minutes after it started because I didn't know what was going on. I had them pinging me. So I showed up to my own thing for my own story 20 minutes late. Well, first I had a microphone issue, so I had to come back on. So, yeah, that was my debut. And it's funny because, like, I wasn't even freaking out there. I'm like, whatever, man. What is this in the in the grand scheme of things? But hold on a sec.
Well, like I said, you still want things to go smoothly. Sucks when they don't.
Yeah.
That's all right. All right.
Oh, yeah. He's a fellow bike rider like me. He's the one who got me onto that years ago because I'm trying to get better on cardio and I hate running. And my place is like probably 3 miles away from my work. And on good days, I do run my bike there. It's 20 minutes, maybe, depending if I don't get flattened by a semi because it's an industrial area. Biscuit, guys. I want a biscuit.
I could go for a biscuit, some eggs and bacon.
Sausage gravy. Uber Eats. Clickbait mushy pea hot dog. Wow. That really did kind of store his ass, didn't it? Good. I'm a mess. Again, this guy's known me for like, 4 years now? I'm less of a mess, I think. I'm at least productive. I'm a productive mess.
That's all we can ask for.
That's because you're a soldier, Mama Ward. You keep going. People just see a bad tweet and I got to cancel the rest of my day.
Sasha Gravy.
Sasha Gravy? I didn't see it in the chat yet.
Yeah, it's in the
Sasha Gravy. Yes. Whenever you want to make breakfast, make sure to have some Sasha Gravy aside.
Shannon in the chat. What's up, Shannon?
Oh, well, all right. Well, since we got onto that, punk bands, huh?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What instruments do you play? Instruments.
I was playing guitar in the bands at that time. I dabbled in bass, like in my own private time, but I was usually on guitar. Rhythm, not lead. You know, I wasn't that good.
What was your first axe?
Oh, I had this ridiculous PV. I want to say it was a T something, T60, T80, something like that. It was so heavy. You would swear that it was a big ass bass. It was supposed to be a guitar, but it was just heavy as hell. And the sound was okay. It was all banged up. It was, like a hand-me-down guitar that somebody at church gave me or something.
It was a beginner's guitar.
Yeah, it was a beginner's guitar. And then I got a couple of nice little acoustics. I have I don't have it here. I left it at my folks' house because I'm just trying to save space. But when I was a little kid in Puerto Rico, there was this little old couple that lived across the street from us, and they would babysit me while my parents were at work. And the man, the husband, he was like a wood shop guy, and he just made instruments. So he just had like a whole workshop full of guitars, cuatros, which is like a Spanish guitar, and it's like a 12-string. And yeah, man, he would just like build them from scratch right in front of you and like sand them and just shine them up. And he gave me like my first like real nice acoustic. So I still have that. Yeah. And then like the first like really decent guitar that I had was like a straight up like a Strat, like a Fender Stratocaster.
In a punk band, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
For the longest time, like
Palm
I always
muting.
kind of dismissed Fender Strats because I played mostly metal on my guitar, or like
Sure.
alternative punk stuff like that. But I just never associated the two together. Like I know, like Kurt
Gotcha.
Cobain played, Fender Strat. Of course, some of the legends. But at the same time, just when I thought of metal, I thought of like ESP or Jackson too. But I hated the bodies on those. They're awkward to play.
For the most part, though, like we're talking about. I mean, sure, every guitar, even electric guitars, have their own kind of quality to the sound. But at the end of the day, we're mostly talking aesthetics because all of these music types use very heavy distorted sounds through their guitars, distortion pedals. It doesn't really matter what kind of guitar you use. You're just going to distort the sound anyway. But yeah, I hear you, man. Like, like those flying V's or whatever, like every guitar kind
that's more 80s and stuff, but
sure, but they all have their place.
Yeah, punk, Fender Strat, Gibson guitars. I see a lot of Gibsons and punk. Ibanez.
Yeah, I see Gibson a lot.
My first guitar was, I've actually been rocking with Ibanez, like not like unwillingly, it's just the way it's happened. First one was a cheap beat up one, and I got 7-string as a Christmas present as a teenager, then an acoustic from a guy who looks like Stephen King.
I think I had an Ibanez for a little while. Can't remember what happened to it.
Yeah, but I actually did some work on mine. I put some EMG pickups in it, and it's been sitting ampless because I had to sell my amp to pay people I owed a long time ago. Back in the stupid roughhouse days. But
I had an old like beat up Fender amp. I was constantly like borrowing guitars and amps from people too, like just to put on shows and make a few bucks, buy my own.
Did you have any particular brand you rocked with?
I mean, dude, like we were basically a garage band that was trying to become a bar band. Like it didn't matter. It really didn't matter.
So when you say punk though, like any particular style of punk? Like any kind of like band inspirations
I mean, like when I was coming up in high school, there was like it was right before emo got really big in the mainstream, and it was after,
I remember those days.
Yeah, and it was after like real grungy punk bands. It was like that in between where it was kind of pop punk, but there was still like some edge to it. So like early MXPX, NoFX, Descendants, all like
Fugazi.
that kind of like. Sure, yeah. Rancid, maybe a little bit. Rancid was maybe even a little further back, but
Pennywise.
Like early Green Day stuff, like stuff like that, like where it was radio friendly enough, but it still had a bite to it. It still had a little kick.
It's just more digestible.
Sure. Yeah, festivals were probably the most fun. Is playing like a big summer festival like with a bunch of other bands. That's the best.
Like Warped Tour.
Yeah, sure.
I went back in oh god, who did I see there? It was like Offspring was there. God, 98, 99.
I was at that show in Orlando, or no, it was Tampa. We drove out to Tampa for that one, I think.
I just remember Offspring were like, I guess people were throwing garbage around, and he stopped the show and he was telling everyone to just chuck all their garbage at the stage, and all of a sudden just a whole sea of shit just landed on all of them, and they just walked off. I think they're almost done with their set anyway. I think they're just having fun, but yeah.
That sucks though, man. Like, dude, I was
get all your shit on here. Get it on. You keep throwing it around.
There was a radio station in Orlando that organized this big like outdoor concert, and they kind of like set it up sort of like a festival. There was only one stage, but there were bands that were playing throughout the day, and they kind of like shut down a couple streets, and it was all in the streets of like a city. So like you're like there's skyscrapers all around you, and you're watching bands play, and the headliner was Cake. And it was the worst show I've ever seen, and I've never let them live it down because like, oh my god, dude! Like the lead singer was complaining about the crowd the entire time. He was whining about the noise that the generators were making, and everybody was like, "What do you want us to do about that? Like, it's the generators. Like, without that, you can't play." And they walked off. Like the whole band like walked off after a couple of songs. And the crowd was booing them for whining about like stuff that was completely out of anyone's control. Like,
you know the band Live, right?
Sure.
Actually, they were playing Chicago back in the 90s. I think it was like Lollapalooza, and a storm came in, and a fan got struck by lightning.
Oh,
I don't know if they survived or not, but I just remember like everyone talking about it. And we had this local radio personality, Man Cow, tons of jokes about it.
Man Cow.
Yeah, like he'd be playing the song "Lightning Crashes" during the show and just making like thunder sounds for the whole thing. But that happened, and God, 10 years ago, I was living in Alabama for a few months with family. I just wanted to get out of the city, and I decided to go to Alabama for some reason. But I tried. I tried to escape this concrete jungle. But anyways, I'm at this festival. The singer of Live, he was headlining that night at this thing, and he hits a stage, and like that song "All Over You, All Over Me," he comes out to it. Within seconds, this dark cloud rolls in. You see lightning, and the storm just hits the whole thing. Severe thunderstorm. I'm like, this guy is a curse. He brings the thunder, literally.
Yeah, man.
Like I don't want to see. I want to see live.
I wanted to address Second Street Marvel. It says, "I'm not a big fan. I'm not big on festivals. I'd rather be in a small venue." I agree with you. My remark about festivals was about playing them. But if I'm going to a show, I'd rather be in a smaller venue. And I at my age, I definitely don't want to be like in the pit. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna have a nice table. I'm gonna have a waiter. I'm gonna get some drinks. I'm gonna enjoy the show. I'm gonna have earplugs in. It's gonna be great.
I would have agreed with you for a very long time up until about 2 years ago, because maybe a year ago in Chicago, indoor venues within the city limits, there's an outdoor policy now. Once you're in there, you can't go back out, like out the doors. You can't go to your car. Sure. You can't smoke. You can't go get food.
Sure.
Stuff. Before, you was hanging out outside, chain smoking.
I haven't been to a concert in so long, man. That's something that I miss from my youth. But now that I got kids and stuff, like until they're old enough for me to take them, I don't see concerts in my future.
Yeah, I stopped going to concerts for a very long time, actually, and just recently in the past few years. Well, I think it's because with my writer brand, I'm tying music into it because I've always been part of the music scene here. It's so massive. Anything from blues, jazz, goth, punk, metal. And I've always been trying to be part of it and playing instruments, filling in occasionally for like a cover band or some shit, or just yelling on stage. I never like been in a band going around, but I've always known musicians. So like I've always helped promoting them, and now they're kind of doing cross promotions, and see how that works as a horror writer.
That's dope.
But the House of Blues.
I was never a good enough musician to like jam with strangers. I want to get good enough to someday be able to do that. Like I need somebody to teach me the song, or I need to have made it up, or whatever it is. Like I want to be able to walk into a party and somebody's on a guitar and I can just bust out my guitar and we can just jam. That would be awesome.
Right.
I never got that good.
With me, I think I just lucked out because one of them was Metallica, and I like all their songs of guitar. Slayer cover band. Another one was death metal, and I just bullshitted. Just kept doing tremolo the whole time, keeping up with the drums. I didn't know the songs. Like whatever. I think the guy I think he was either too wasted and couldn't play, or he just was being a bitch. Like on. But the House of Blues in L.A.
I used to work there in Orlando. The House of Blues in Orlando.
I was out having ramen last night in the city, and I walked right by the House of Blues in Chicago. It's not a bad place. The floor is kind of wobbly. It's not a good place for like moshing.
Ours had a concrete floor in the concert hall, so we didn't have that problem.
There's plenty of good mosh places here. You got the Metro, the Riviera is good, but the number one place to get down on the slam dance in Chicago, the Aragon Ballroom, or as we call it here, the Brawl Room.
If you're if you or anyone out there is a big music person, I recommend getting a job in a concert hall at least once in your life, and experiencing what it is to be on staff at one of these places, because it's pretty interesting, the stories that you walk out with.
Or make friends with these people and get in there for free.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you work there, you get in for free anyway. But
I'm saying what I did. I made friends with these people and got in for free.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
Well, not really much anymore. But yeah.
I mean, I smoked with Snoop and Ziggy Marley separately. I hung out on like POD's tour bus. Dude, like I got stories.
Yeah. Let's back that up a little bit. First is Snoop Dogg. How did this happen? I want to hear this story.
Dude, Snoop was crazy because I was working the restaurant side that night. I wasn't even in the concert venue, but I knew that the show was going on, and I was at a point where all my tables were taken care of. Everybody was eating, and they were going to be eating for a while. I had just refilled everybody's drinks. I was like, I got some time before anybody needs me again. I'm gonna go check out the show. So I walked through the kitchen, and I opened the door past the kitchen into the concert hall. And in a no smoking concert hall, it was just a cloud. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see any people. I couldn't see the stage. I couldn't see anything. And there was somebody on stage performing. It wasn't Snoop, but somebody was performing during that time, and I couldn't see anything. And I was like, oh my goodness, instant like contact high. And I was like, I got to check out what the green room is like, because now I'm not thinking straight. So I just went all the way up into the green room. I just opened the door, and it's not like anybody can stop you because they can't see anything. It's just a cloud. So I opened the door to the green room, and I walk in, and it's Snoop and all his boys are sitting around in a circle, passing a blunt around. And so I open the door, and Snoop like looks up and goes, "Who's that? Who's there?" Because again, you can't see anything. And I go, "It's Adrian." And everybody goes, "Hey, Adrian, hey, come on in, man." They're like, they don't know me, but they're all stoned out of their minds. So they're like, "Hey, come on in, man." And I just sat down like right next to Snoop, and he passed it to me and asked me some questions. I asked him some questions. I was able to solve a little rumor that had been circulating in our concert venue for years. So it was fun, you know, like it's and then I just went back to work.
That's awesome, man. Not to mention somebody that's been in that level of fame for decades. Just being friendly, like, all right, come on. I said, who's this guy? Get him out of here. Security. He's an outsider.
Very stoned, but yeah, sure. Yeah. No, he didn't seem to care. Like, I was in my work uniform. I had an apron on. You know what I mean? Like, they know that they should know that I'm not one of their posse.
You know,
I don't know.
Just know me. If I'm walking through a cloud and I hear Snoop, like, who's that? Just me, man. Let me see that.
Hey, man. It's just me.
I got one for you. I was at a horror convention last year. One of the people there was Doug Jones. Do you know what that is?
Doug Jones, that name rings a bell.
He played he does a lot of like performance acting. He was Billy in Hocus Pocus. He was Agent Sapien and Hellboy. He's been a bunch of John Dies at the End. The tall dude.
He does a lot of work with Del Toro too. He did like the guy with the hands, right? Like
yeah. But he was at this horror convention here. So it was either two big ones, Days of the Dead and Flashback. I believe this was Days of the Dead. I don't know if he didn't like charge too much like picture and autograph, but it was like between him or Malcolm McDowell. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go with Alex here.
Yeah,
I got to go with the Drugan leader. But like we made eye contact and did like a friendly nod to each other and kept going. But that night, I'm getting ready to leave because it was all the way in the northern suburbs. I'm on the south side. I had to go like 3 trains through the city. I'm getting ready to get on that first ride. I light up a blunt to myself, finish it off down to the dome, flick it, get on this shuttle bus to get to the blue line. Start making my way down south. The shuttle bus is empty. The lights are off inside of it, pure dark. So I just go shuffle off from the corner and put on some music. All of a sudden, like 4 or 5 people get on. I'm like, oh, God, please don't sit near me. All of a sudden, this tall-ass figure just stands up through the door, pops up, and I just see blonde hair, and it walks up, and as soon as like he passed through a window and light hits, I'm like, holy shit, it's Doug Jones. And they go sit right in front of me, and they start talking loudly, and I just go up in the corner like, all right, man, just be invisible. Don't mess with the famous people. They'll probably try to mace you or something, because I'm not a small guy, and I'm not approachable either. Just try to look friendly. And I kept hearing them talk about, like, where are we going to eat? Where's a good pizza place around here in Chicago? I'm like, oh, God, here we go. I don't know if it's like genes or just kind of natural habit. When you hear people say that, they're out of town and you're from this city, you're going to tell them where to go. That's when I just hop up in the middle of the shuttle bus. I'm like, all right, depends on what you want. If you want the deep dish, you want to go to Pequod's, maybe G&OZ's if that's not open. There's too long of a line. But if you want the thin crust, though, suburbs. I was chatting their asses off for like 10 minutes straight, me and him going back and forth. And I get off at the blue line. I'm like, all right, well, welcome to Chicago. Don't get murdered. Bye.
The way you say Chicago.
Well, I deliberately did the accent.
Yeah.
You want to go down
You turn
Wacker
it up.
Drive there, stop at Portillo's, get a Polish sausage. Check out a bull
It's
scam.
almost like a clucking. It's almost like a
It's like a weird
there's like
Germanic
a
Polish.
there's like a buck buck
accent.
buck buck. There's
Yeah.
like a rhythm that goes like buck 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 buck.
Then we go pick up the corn off the ground before they
Yeah.
take the feathers out of us and turn us into nuggets, chicken nuggets,
That's exactly
me
right.
nuggets, us nuggets.
That's so good. It's funny because like I'm from two major places. Like I was born in Puerto Rico, but I wasn't raised there. I was mostly raised in Buffalo, New York, and then Orlando, Florida, for like
Whoa.
dual halves of my life for a long time. And so like the people in the South always tell me they can hear my New York accent, and the people in the North always tell me they can hear my Southern accent. And I can't hear either one, so I don't know.
Mine fluctuates. I don't know if it's because I've always been open, exposing myself to different cultures and stuff like that, and I just know how to code switch because
exposing yourself.
Oh, of course, but usually I sit through a few drinks. But no, just I've always been curious about things that are different from me, and being in a place that's so multicultural is like a kid in a candy store. I wanted all of it. I want to see it all. I wouldn't try to learn it all, but at least know some of it, be familiar with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've had people that come like, we wouldn't be able to tell you're from here because like there's certain accent, and sometimes it jumps out at certain words you say, because that whole stereotype, Chicago act, the super fans, the Bears, you don't really hear that shit around here. Maybe like some of the older people. Bears. I think if anyone had the right Chicago accent, it would have been John Belushi or John Goodman. Guess where they're from. Same with Bill Murray. But
yeah,
you got people around here who sound like they're straight from Wisconsin. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh geez. Getting a little cold up here. Golly. So Puerto Rico. My sister-in-law's family's from there. Where we're at.
Oh, nice. Well, I was born in Ponce, but we lived in Peñuelas, so the southwest coast-ish.
How old
We're jungle people. We're from the jungle. 4. I was 4, and my sister was practically a newborn, and but I still remember a lot of the I don't know, maybe my from year 3 to 4, like I remember like that year pretty vividly. A certain birthday that really sticks out, and memories of the dog across the street and stuff like that. My dad would like climb the palm tree in our yard and like chop down coconuts and stuff for the morning and all that stuff. Like we were straight up like island jungle people.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it's funny. My I got a friend in Buffalo who Puerto Rican like me, and falls in love with a Puerto Rican chick from Puerto Rico who lives there, and they had like a long distance relationship for a while. And he goes to visit her, surprises her, right? She doesn't know he's coming. And he surprise visits her, and everybody's excited. It's great. Okay, cool. So they're going to go out for a walk. And they leave the house and they're out for a walk. And he says that they encounter a dead cat in the street, roadkill. And he goes, oh man, that's a shame. And she looks at it and she goes, oh, this is too close to my grandma's house. She's not going to like that. So she picks up the cat by the tail and she spins it around and whips it into the jungle, like right off the mountain into the jungle. And he just like stares at her with his mouth dropped, like, what? And then like lots of little culture shock moments like that where he'll like ask her for a store so he can get himself some coconut water. She's like, here, like, what are you talking about?
It's funny jungle you say girls, that because
get a jungle girl.
I've had a couple. It's kind of hard to be dominated that constantly.
Yeah.
But you mentioned age
Mine's
3 to 4.
Cuban, so she's a little different.
Hey. My best friend's Cuban. But
there you go.
Age 3 to 4. I kind of remember those years too quite vividly, since you say something. Because I had moved from a different part of the south side to the other. And I remember that whole thing. We went from like a smaller house to a less smaller house. Not like huge.
I feel like those are the things that like make you come online. Is like a big change during that age. Like whatever like it's almost traumatic. You know what I mean? Like it's something that forces you to be like, oh, like I'm online now, and I will not forget this. I will remember this. I'm only 3, but I will remember this. You know?
Well, I think what stuck out was the first time I ever had my own room. I just remember that, like, it was me and my brother. I'm just like, I'm finally away from this asshole. Yes. He keeps throwing things at me. Older brother, of course.
Yeah. My kids are still sharing a room. They're begging me for their own room.
But you mentioned stuff like that down there. I had a friend when I was in elementary school whose family was from there as well. And his dad, I don't know if he did this to mess with me or because even then I was a big horror fan and he was trying to just get on me or whatever. He said when he was down there, he saw once a car. Can't talk today. A dog get hit by a car, died, and like a few minutes later, someone came along on the side of the road, grabbed the dog, pulled out a knife, cut its head off, and I think like its tail or whatever, and its legs, and put the rest in a sack and walked off it like he's gonna go eat the meat.
Whoa, that took a dark turn, dude.
Yeah. And I was like probably 9, 8 years old at the time. So like a part of me is like, oh, poor dog. But like, oh, that's fucking brutal. I was total edgelord back then. It was probably because I'd come at him like, because he was kind of like a horror fan too. I'm like, you ever see Faces of Death? You ever see Cannibal Holocaust? Which at that age I shouldn't have been watching.
I can get into a horror movie that has like some real like auteur behind it, you know what I mean? Like somebody with some sort of like very interesting story to tell or vision. But for the most part, I don't really get into horror too much. And part of it is that stuff, the kind of like the gore part of it, where I don't feel like gore is even necessary for horror. Like sure, some horror calls for it, but not all. And it's more interesting to me when you can scare me without like showing me a bunch of guts and blood and stuff, you know?
You got to walk a line with it.
Yeah.
Are you being over the top with the violence just for the sake of it? Or there's something more to it? Is it more visceral?
Because here's the thing, like again, it's not the violence that I have a problem with because I love John Wick movies. You know what I mean? Like it's not about that. It's the fact that especially in recent years, as far as I understand it, horror movies are having a bit of a renaissance right now. There's a lot of good horror right now. For a while there, it seemed like you would go to see a horror movie and it would not be scary at all. They would just show you a bunch of gore and they call it horror. And it's just not. That's not horror. That's just gore.
It's torture porn, and that was just in the United States. Cool. Well, in French too, with their extreme wave, but other countries I felt like the first Saw movie was one of those auteur things that I'm talking about, where it was something unique. It had a vision, like we hadn't really seen anything like it before. But then like the sequels, like just kind of like I was like, no, that's enough. Yeah, we're at it again. Another complex, gory.
No, thank you.
Yeah, formulaic. But I kind of felt the same way about the first Saw movie. You know, I had a good idea. You know,
I really liked it. I still like it. I'll watch it again now.
I actually haven't watched it since it was in theaters.
It's cool. There's a lot of creepy stuff in that movie, man. The one where like the dude is like standing outside the car and like the guy with the mask like creeps out of the car and he's like crawling. Like there's some creepy stuff in there. I like it. I dig it.
I just remember the scene where that woman was down in the chair and she had like the reverse bear trap in her face.
Yeah, that's one of those things. That concept is so crazy, you know, like the idea that it'll just rip your head off. That's nuts.
Well, I kind of brought this up on the stream yesterday we did with Ben Pick on his channel, but with
horror,
I was
late to that.
It's okay, man. I was a normie among gamers. I was just trying to keep up. But I don't know really what it is about draws people to that kind of stuff. I'm not into like the gory stuff, so I like seeing blood and people die.
Yeah,
maybe because like when it comes to the overtop gore stuff, you know, it's just them having fun with fake blood, and it's meant to be, you know, just kind of amusing. Say like with Evil Dead 2 or Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive, which is like the
Evil Dead is
movie.
A great example of one that works really well though, because that's, you know, it's basically a comedy in a lot of ways. It's a dark comedy, and it's got like very interesting characters, and wacky performances. Like that's a unique, interesting movie, you know.
And also, we deem as gory. Like I would say, Silence of the Lambs is a gory movie.
Silence of the Lambs is a very gory movie. Yeah.
Well, maybe not compared to like Terrifier.
No, but
that's just straight gore for fun.
But for somebody who doesn't do horror, you know, very, very much, like, yeah, that can be a very gory movie. And I mean, I love Silence of the Lambs, though. That movie rocks.
I've always wanted to read that book.
It's good. It's a good read.
Like I heard that one in what is it, Manhunter or Red Dragon or whatever.
Red Dragon. Red Dragon's my favorite. Red Dragon's my favorite.
Was Hannibal good? Because I heard the ending was different from the movie, where like she runs off with Hannibal and becomes cannibal.
The movie Hannibal, I'm not a fan of. I don't find it very good, and it's got some of that gory, just for gory's sake stuff that we're talking about, where it's like there's no substance to it. All the gore in Silence of the Lambs, there was plenty of substance to it. Hannibal, I felt like it just got gory for no reason. However, the show Hannibal is a straight up masterpiece.
I haven't watched that. I keep hearing it's good though. I tried watching Hannibal Rising, but yeah, with the Hannibal movie itself, I like Gary Oldman in that faceless dude. But even then, I felt it disappointing, and especially for Ridley Scott directing it.
Wait, I'm sorry. You cut out for a little while there. Which one are we talking about? Ridley Scott
Hannibal.
Oh yeah. No, it was
like kind of let down. Yeah.
No, yeah.
At the same time, when was his last great movie?
Ridley Scott?
Yes.
I mean, The Martian was pretty dope.
He directed that?
Didn't he?
He probably. That's a good movie. All right, there we go. Later, Trinity. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, man. Y'all make sure to follow him on his channel if y'all like comics, or if you like bald guys that ride bikes and sell peanuts. I don't know if do you still sell peanuts? Anyways, other conversation for another time.
That's funny.
But I'm a fan of the entire genre itself, not just the gore. I like even the subtle stuff. When it comes to my writing, I do gore with some things, but I'm a big fan of the less is more approach. Speaking of Ridley Scott, Alien, you didn't really get a full view of the alien until near the end of the movie.
Yeah. Alien and Aliens did the same thing that Terminator and Terminator 2 did very, very well. The idea that the first one is more straight up horror, and the second one is like, well, let's ratchet up the action. And this one, it's more of an action, adventure. So
they went to the right guy both times.
Yeah, for sure.
Then he added more human to the story. The relationship with John Connor and the Terminator, then with Newton, Ripley, and Aliens.
That's true.
Which you really didn't get. I mean,
with good observation. Yeah, that's true.
I guess you get the romance with the first Terminator. There really wasn't any of that in Alien. Just we work together and something's killing us.
The romance in that first Terminator is that action movie romance where it's like it's all very speedily thrown together. It's like, oh, our experiences are intense, so obviously we have romantic feelings for each other. It's like, okay, I'm on board too. Like it's not like a real romance.
Yeah, I've always preferred the first Terminator. I know.
Really?
Well, I guess I'm just partial to the year 1984, but also I like low budget. And just it had that gritty industrial feel to it.
Sure.
And I like it's like the only movie where I ever seen Arnold play a competent villain. I think it's probably like two movies that he's played a villain. Unless I don't really count Mr.
Where he played a villain.
We killed the dinosaurs. The Ice Age. Batman.
Oh my God.
Freezing hell. The bats in the bird.
See, I don't even think of that as a villainous performance. It's so campy. Like it doesn't exist in my brain as a villain performance. That's so interesting.
Technically, he's the antagonist, the sympathetic antagonist, I guess you can say. Whereas, oh my God,
that movie.
You know what though? Batman is my favorite character in all of fiction, and the way I see all that stuff is this whole thing. They're necessary for each other. Even with the Adam West Ward Batmania stuff from the 60s.
Right.
I don't think if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have gotten more of the back to the dark, gritty detective stories that you saw with Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams in the comics from the 70s on. And same with what would be like the Dark Knight trilogy. Had it not been for Batman and Robin and that campy, somewhat fun mess that it was, I don't think we would have gotten the straight, on the streets, realistic Nolan approach.
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't have it. Yeah, I mean, Batman and Robin killed Batman movies for a good 8 years. It took a while to get one off the ground again, and they were about to like overcorrect like really hard when they had like Darren Aronofsky and Frank Miller trying to make their version of Batman Begins. They were gonna call it Batman. What was it? I can't remember now. But
it wouldn't have been like Year One or anything.
Well, it was definitely based off of Year One, but I don't think they were going to call it that. But yeah, the real like gritty, like overly corrected grittiness that they were going to put into that movie probably wouldn't have worked out. But Nolan really found that sweet spot,
Yeah, I remember hearing a couple of years after Batman and Robin, they were just going to reboot the whole thing with a Justice League movie, and the guy they had planned to play Batman is, I can't remember his name. He played the Lone Ranger in that one movie with Johnny
Army
Depp.
Hammer.
Yeah, he was going to play Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I've always said that John Hamm would have been the best Batman, even when they were talking about Batfleck. But with Christian Bale, I think he was an excellent Bruce Wayne. Not so much Batman. I love how they kind of gave him that ability to turn his head, which I've been bitching about since 1989.
It's a good step in the right direction for sure. I find Christian Bale for a long time was my Batman. He was as close to what I wanted out of Batman as I was going to get. They still weren't really doing the detective stuff that I really love and had missed in all the movies, but at least he was closer to what Batman was. He was a great Bruce Wayne, though. You are right. His Bruce Wayne was spot on, and he was basically playing 3 different characters in that series, so he did a great job. His bat voice, I think, is the biggest problem. It's the thing that makes him a lesser Batman in most people's eyes. I think if he had nailed that a little better, he would be better remembered as a better Batman. But nowadays, man, Robert Pattinson kind of killed it in the Batman for me. Like, I'm a big fan of that. I mean, it's the detective Batman that I always wanted. So, or at least he's on the road to becoming that Batman,
With Christian Bale's voice, I never got it because he had it just right in the first movie, Batman Begins.
I agree.
And to me, that out of the trilogy, that's the best one. I love The Dark Knight.
Like
it's a great movie, but Batman Begins is the best one.
He corrected it. He tried to correct it in the second and third, and he only made it worse. I feel like it was better in the first one, but I also feel like it's because of the suit. That's my theory, because in the first movie, he had that really big, like, it was all, they called it a panther suit. He had a huge neck. It just made him really big and imposing. And yeah, he couldn't turn his head yet or whatever, but he had way more mobility than any other Batman had yet. And because it was so big and it gave him that big neck, he said that the voice kind of came out of that. He needed it to sound like a beast, a big, big animal, a monster. And it worked. It worked really well in that one. And then I feel like when he got the more streamlined suit and it was way more athletic, I feel like he tried to soften the voice a little bit. He probably got some backlash from the first movie. So he tried to play with it, and he made it so much worse. It was better in the first one. I agree with you.
And then he went way overboard in The Dark Knight Rises.
The Dark Knight Rises is probably his worst Batman performance for sure.
You would give it to a regular citizen.
That's not even my biggest problem with it. My biggest problem with it is when Catwoman disappears on him and he's standing alone on the rooftop and he still uses the voice when he says, "So that's what that feels like." It's like, who are you doing that for? There's no one there. There's no one around. Like, why are you talking like that?
Why was he still doing it with Bane after he called him out by his name?
Well, here's the thing, though. In the first movie, when they're showing the little montage of him putting his suit together and figuring things out, he puts this thing in the cowl, right? That's supposed to like feed him an earpiece and everything for all the listening stuff that he does, but it has a mouthpiece as well, and it's supposed to all be hidden in the cowl. And they never explicitly say it, but I think what they were going for is that he's not doing that voice. That voice is modulated, even though Christian Bale is actually the one doing the voice. I think the in-universe explanation is that Batman has a voice, changer, and so that's why, like, even when he's alone, you can hear it that way. But again, we all know it's Christian Bale doing the voice, so it still comes off as like, dude, why are you doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I know way too much about the Christian Bale and Chris Nolan movies. I'm sorry if you bring them up. I'm going to derail your conversation and talk for too long about meaningless Batman stuff.
You're talking about a fellow North. Well, he wasn't born here, but guy who lived in Evanston for a while. I consider him a local, Chris Nolan. And he also brought Gotham City to a place that I've been calling Gotham City since I was a child, and I always thought myself fighting crime in Chicago. Yeah. I told y'all it was Gotham City for a long time before they did it. And that was really cool. And
that was probably really cool to see in The Dark Knight for you. Does it make it hard, like, to separate the two, though? Like, when you're watching The Dark Knight, are you doing that whole thing like, oh, I know where that is. Oh, I know where that is. Like, does it take you out of the movie?
It did at first because I knew, like, almost every place they were at. Like, oh, that's Lower Wacker, underneath where it's like a tunnel. Like, oh, that's LaSalle Street, the part where, cause I've always found myself, because where I live at, I have to hit certain intersections to catch certain, like, trains and all that. And a lot of those are around that area. Like LaSalle Street where he's running that Joker with the bat bike and he doesn't hit him. Like where Joker lets himself get caught. Yeah, I'm always by that. Like right by that
the truck flip.
Yeah, where it ends at, or it dead ends. But yeah, I used to, and so I really haven't watched movies in a long time because I watched the crap out of them when they came out.
I still watch it a lot. There's not a lot of stories told in Buffalo, New York, or set in Buffalo, New York, but Bruce Almighty was. And really? I'm from Buffalo, so I had that in Bruce Almighty, where like certain scenes I would be like, oh, I know exactly where that is. Like, I've been there.
My friend was out there. I guess they have a cereal factory in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he was out there at his hotel balcony blazing a joint one night, and all of a sudden you smelled cereal everywhere, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, is it me or is there cereal somewhere? Yeah, no, he's talking about like a cereal factory, like right outside of town.
I think it's a Cheerios factory. I think they do like Honey Nut Cheerios there. So
oh my God,
like Honey Nut Cheerios all the time. Yeah.
How much?
It's either that or Frosted Flakes. Is one of the.
That's okay. What about Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
It's definitely not Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I don't think so.
Never been to Buffalo, but I like that place already.
Buffalo's dope, man. Buffalo is this like big city that has a small town feel. Like it's weird. Like everybody kind of knows everybody, but it is a pretty big city, and they're real big on like the arts there. They celebrate like local music, local plays. Like we have a great theater district with like several different theaters, and there's plays going on all year round.
And Cannibal Corpse is from Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and what's his face? That one rapper dude, I forget his name, because he's from like after my time there. But there's a few. Goo Goo Dolls is from there. They went to my school.
Wow. It was last time I heard from them.
Yeah, it's been a while, right?
I just remember the 90s, just saw everywhere, especially when that Nicolas Cage Angel movie came out. They had that one big hit.
Yeah.
God, like you even hear
that's when they blew up.
I swear, I would hear it in my car, go walk and hear it through the PA in a mall. They go in like a waiting in the elevator and they hear the same song. I don't want the world to see me.
It's a good song.
I know, but like radio really kills good songs.
Dude, I used to work at Universal Studios in Orlando. My main dude, I've had so many jobs. And my main station was this little pastry shop in the San Diego area, and it was like attached to Lombard's seafood restaurant. And so part of the job is going out to the outside tables, the outside seating, and cleaning the whole place up. So I'm out there most of the day, like just cleaning up after people. And I swear, dude, the music that plays through the speakers, like it's designed for you to like walk through the section pretty quickly, go into the rides. So there's only like maybe
world after all.
It's kind of like, well, it's Universal, so it wasn't that song, but that's exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like the same 5 songs playing on a loop over and over and over again. And Santana's Smooth was one of them. And I swear, dude, I heard that song. And like Lenny Kravitz's Fly Away was another one. Like
those are good songs, though.
They're great songs, but when you hear them 30 times in an hour, you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just want to shoot my brains out. Yeah. And they're all songs that I'll now go back and listen to and enjoy them. But back then, dude, oh man, I hated them so much. I was so sick of them.
I used to deliver truck parts and trailer parts at these different rail yards around the city. So I'd be in my truck a lot listening to the radio. This is before Spotify, even YouTube for that matter. But anyways, in Chicago, I had like 2 rock stations, and you would flip to either one. I swear to God, you'd either be hearing an Aerosmith song. It's usually the same 3, Led Zeppelin, or maybe Rolling Stones. It felt like that was it. And Nirvana and Metallica when it became like classic rock at some point.
Dude, I never really got into listening to the radio. It always felt like they were playing the same 9 songs over and over again. And like years later, they're still playing the same songs. And the commercials and the DJs all sound so phony. Like, I was never into radio. I never got into it. I don't listen to it. Never have.
Well, it depends on what I guess we're putting Mama Ward to sleep. So I'm going to start yelling at you now. Thanks for coming. Leave it up for the view tab. But it depends, actually, because I remember a couple of pirated networks back in the day. I had Rebel Radio. That was one. That's how I heard of like a lot of the underground metal bands back in the day. But actually, in the 90s, we had Rock 103.5. And this is, Mancow was on there, and he's actually the one that kind of blew up that station. And that's just when I was getting music at the time, 12, 13 years old. And that's how I got into like Pantera and stuff like that. And, like late at night, they would play all the, local acts. That's how I found out about Disturbed before anybody else. I'd catch them at like Champs before the first album came out. And Chevelle, I remember seeing them. Mudvayne, they came up from Peoria occasionally. They really started getting painted up until they got signed. Back in the day. But you smoked the Snoop Dogg. Who else did you smoke with?
Ziggy Marley.
That's awesome. I'm really jealous of that.
Rusted Root. I don't know if you're familiar with Rusted Root.
Familiar, but like not that familiar.
I've seen them live so many times, dude. They're an incredible band to see live. They're a unique experience. For anybody who doesn't know or think they don't know, if you've seen the first Ice Age movie, there's that song "On My Way." On My Way. Everybody knows that song. You've heard it at least once. That's Rusted Root. That's like their big like radio hit. But they have this really like wide range in their musical stylings. They can go really, really folksy. They can go really heavy rock. They can get like real like hippie drums going, tribal music. They have this like their band shrinks down to 4 people, then explodes to 9 or 12, and then shrinks back down to 5. And like they're constantly like evolving. And their drummer is this giant black dude with dreads down to the floor, and his name is Preach Freedom. First name Preach, last name Freedom. Like it's like
legal name.
Like that's his name, And so that's Rusted Root. They have they have a lead singer, but they also have like 2 or 3 female backup singers. And the head one, like the main one who's been around like in the band forever, she has this incredible range where she can do like Native American chanting, or she can do like opera, and everything in between. And she'll do it all in the same song sometimes. Like it's wild. Like if you've never heard Rusted Root, you should check it.
It sounds cool.
Really awesome.
Shit, man.
Yeah, they're really cool. Their album When I Woke is,
as much as I like consider myself like musically inclined, just having been in the scene for so many years, being familiar with different bands and genres, I sleep on a lot of stuff.
There's so much.
David Bowie,
like TV shows, books. Like there's too much content, man.
Yeah, and you get so caught up in a certain pattern or a certain style,
through the cracks.
and you don't. Yeah, you get myopic. But David Bowie, like I know the name for years. I really didn't listen to him, like intentionally listen to him until my 20s. I grabbed like a best of album and I threw it on. Like the first 3 songs, like I know these songs. I like these songs. This is Bowie. I like David Bowie. And like I listened to the whole thing. Like I knew probably 90% of the songs on there just from either radio or someone else playing. I'm like, I've always been a fan because I like the songs.
Or you saw them in a movie, like it was used in a movie or in a TV show or something, like they licensed it or whatever. Like you've heard them, they're around. You don't know that it's him, but then you find out. That's happened to me several times too. You're just like, oh, that's who this is. I know this.
Yeah, with White Zombie, that song "More Human Than Human." I remember them using that in like movie trailers, like as soon as it came out. I didn't know who it was. I'm like, it's a badass sounding guitar riff. What was he using? Found out later to be a slide. But then I saw the video on MTV not too long ago. I'm like, wait, this a band? I gotta get their album immediately. And it was one of the first albums I ever bought, actually, Astral Creep 2000. And it's funny because like then Rob Zombie would go on to do movies. Whatever you may think of them, you think of them. But
dude, when I was a kid, middle school and high school, I would ride my bike home, in Kissimmee, Orlando area. I would ride my bike home in the summer heat, just like blaring down on me, and I would make a beeline every week. I would make a beeline for 2 different places. On Wednesdays, it was the comic shop because that's when the comics would come out, and on Tuesdays, if it was Tuesdays, it was music. I would go to the music store and shuffle through the CDs and
it is
find,
Tuesday.
and like that. I love that stuff, man. I miss like big music stores that you can just like explore for a while with listening stations that you can check stuff out and be like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Like,
oh god, I
don't know.
I can't even, I will make a whole other podcast or whatever you want to call this about the record stores and all the used tape stores and movie stores, underground stuff to be in the city that are long gone. I think now we still have Reckless Records, but I remember Wax Trax Records, Record Swap. That was like one place too. It wasn't chained out anywhere, and it was right next to a venue. So you go in there and you hear them blasting away next door. It was either a punk band or a metal band.
Yeah.
And God, I remember getting like that's where I found Korn for the first time. Like I think it was Life is Peachy. Like, it was right before a little before Follow Leader came out. That's how I got into them. Oh yeah, it just doesn't happen anymore, man.
Yeah, Korn had those album covers that would make you like pick it up and like stare at it for a while and like turn it to the back. Like it was, there's a whole art form that's probably lost these days with album covers and all that. Just like drawing the eye and making you want to like. This is the same kind of science behind book covers, like I just sent my book out to get the book cover done, and the back and forth with the artist and trying to get it right, and the idea of like somebody's going to be scrolling on Amazon, you want them to stop and be like, oh, this looks dope, let me click on that, and oh, like, look at this cover, this is dope.
Yeah,
science, man.
That or just try to get yourself notorious. People see your name and they associate it with something. Like even before reading, I'd see names like Stephen King or Clive Barker, and like without being a reader, looking at that name on that book cover, you just know something messed up's way behind that. And a lot of times with like King and Barker, it's like that was the case. I would take that over, just like, I guess I want my name to be a trigger warning. It's a good way of putting it. So you're like, oh crap, what has he done now? He's back. But you mentioned Korn. It's different. The whole theme, the whole theme of Korn was different. Look at that album cover. That's different. Their name is Korn. Different. Put on the music
with
That's
a K
very different.
And a backwards R.
Yes.
Yeah, it was all different. Yeah.
And that music, I love, hybrids infused with different styles. And damn it, they did it all. They did metal, hip hop, this kind of like almost funk jazz kind of vibe, scatting.
Yeah, I remember really liking their basses.
Fieldy,
their bass tracks are dope. Yeah,
slap bass.
Yeah, he's good.
I used to actually frown down upon bass players when I first started out playing guitar. I just felt superior with my extra 2 strings, I guess, and the fact that I used to pick. And I could do lead solos. Well, I can't do them that good. I can't do dime back solos. But anywho, then I started getting to know more of them. and learning how they kept up with the drums and just some of the insane bass lines out there when I started getting introduced to people like Flea, like Les Claypool. That guy. I saw him play live in 1999 at Ozfest, Primus and Buckethead. And I'm just sitting there just staring at that guy, Blaze, just transfixed, just watching his hand just all up. But I think it was like a 6-string bass. And he's all up and down them, just slapping back and forth. His hand was like pretty much like a blur.
Bass.
His hand was a blur. His right hand just playing that those strings, man.
Yeah.
That's when I
ever heard of Rodrigo y Gabriela?
No.
It's a dude and a chick, and they play like old like flamenco guitar, but with like a rock and roll edge to it. So like usually she'll be on acoustic and he's on electric, and I mean it sounds like they have a full band playing with percussion and everything, but it's just the two of them, and she's like banging on the guitar as she's strumming it. And like you're talking about, like her hand is just a blur. Like it's a constant blur. You can't even make out fingers. They're just always moving, always doing stuff, banging on stuff, strumming the strings, doing all kinds of wild stuff. And I showed them to a musician friend of mine, an older gentleman who is a very, very good guitarist in his own right. And he's a purist. Like he's all about the music and it has to be pure and, you know, that whole thing. And I play them for him, and they're amazing. And he's like, "Oh yeah, they're
Speaking of,
I like her a lot. I don't like him." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "She's good. She's playing with her fingers. He's playing with a pick. No good." I'm like, "What?" Like he's like belting out gold right now. I was like, "Nope, he's using a pick. He's out." Like, Jesus.
I never got that deep in the flamenco, but there was one musician that I really liked. Was it Juan Serrano? You heard of him?
I have heard it once at Adam,
but I've never been the greatest at finger plucking, and don't have the most patience.
Me neither. I always used the pick. I was a poser, like my friend said.
I can pull off some shit with both the pick and my fingers, like holding thumb and forefinger with my pinky and ring finger, pull some shit on the bottom strings. But like some of those maniacs out there, like somebody that can do really good flamenco and classical guitar, like my one buddy Scott. Like he teaches out in California guitar. Just watching him go on his acoustic, man, he humbles you if you think you're good.
That's dope.
But yeah, man, I actually started picking mine up. It's been a long time. I haven't played in a while. Just kind of fell off with it.
Same. Yeah, same here, man. My kids like ask me to play it because they like hearing a live instrument, but like for the most part, I barely touch it anymore.
My sister-in-law has an acoustic, and she always wanted me to play, but like her and my brother like got really big with religion and all that with their kids. Last time I was over there, they put a guitar in my hand, and me being me, I started playing Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden and singing it. No more guitar for Uncle RC. Put it away.
Solid Christian song. Yeah, absolutely.
They should have known better. I have not really changed in that kind of way since, ever. But so what was the name of that band again? Rusted Root?
Rusted Root. Yeah. I recommend starting with When I Woke. It's their most like accessible album and probably their best work. But there's also an album called Remember that's a little darker, a little heavier. But it's got some of my favorite songs by them on there. So those are the two I would recommend: Remember and When I Woke.
Nice. Usually when I start with a band, I go with the first album when I'm like getting into one.
I used to do that. I don't do that anymore because
you'll lose interest
now. Yeah, especially now that I'm a writer and every author tells you your first novel is going to be your worst one. Like I get that, and the way that I write, I'll write a chapter today. Tomorrow, when I sit down to write again, I'll edit what I wrote today before I start on something new. And so I'm always catching yesterday's mistakes and therefore feeling like a better writer every day. I can see my own progress every single day. And so with that in mind, I don't do that anymore. If somebody introduces me to a band and I look at their album list and there's more than a few on there, I'm like, okay, what's their best one? Where do I start? Like, tell me like what their best one is and I'll start there. Because I'm not going to start with their worst one. I might not like it and then I won't enjoy all the good stuff.
But it depends what you're looking for. That's really subjective. I mean, is it like when you say their best album, their most commercially successful, their most critically acclaimed album, or is it like a fan favorite? With Metallica, the first 4 albums or the first 5 albums usually where you'd answer from normal people. Some would say their best album was the Black Album. They're most not critically, maybe. No, actually, not the critically, but commercially successful. It's one of the highest selling hard rock albums of all time. Probably one of their probably still one of their softest. Some people say Injustice for All, more progressive. Some would say Master of Puppets because it's one of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time. I would say Ride the Lightning because I consider it the greatest thrash metal of all time. And it's also another 84 album.
That's a great example of a band who has evolved a lot throughout their career, though. That's why it's hard to pick with them. Not every band is like that.
Yeah, I know that's Metallica. It was kind of a bad example, but some bands do one or two things.
Prolific.
They either come out there hard with the first album because they've been playing those songs in local dives for years, practicing, getting better.
And
come out with that good one,
like replicating it.
Yeah, or they try to replicate it, or they just go in a different direction and just fuck up, or they start off a little weak and they just build and progress and get better.
Those are the best. Like I'm really into it when like I hear that their 4th album is their best album. You know what I mean? Or their 5th. Like I'm like, all right, like you can see, because like when I was in high school, if anybody asked me who my favorite band was, I probably would have said MXPX. It's a punk band. Their best album is like their 3rd album, and I really like their 4th as well. But now, looking back on 20 plus years of listening to music, it's probably Coheed and Cambria is my favorite band, because when I was in high school and they were just getting started with their 1st and 2nd albums, while they were more progressive than most, there was a definite punk influence, that they were in that scene. There was some metal in there, some thrasher, but for the most part, there was a real punk energy. So it was accessible to me. But then they got way more progressive and way more metal and way more thrasher and way more progressive and way more technical. Every album, they just kept evolving. And I was growing up, discovering new kinds of music, falling in love with new kinds of music, expanding my comprehension of music and my appreciation of music. I wasn't just listening to, palm muted punk bands anymore. And they kept evolving with me. Yeah. And they kept evolving with me. They kept getting just as much more evolved as my tastes were becoming. And to this day, like I still listen to all their stuff. So
they grew just like you did.
Yeah, they grew with me. I grew with them. Whatever. Yeah.
Well, so with thrash and punk, that's where thrash came from, was punk.
Oh, sure.
And, favorite all-time band, I guess, it's either always been Metallica or Black Sabbath. But I like so much other different music though. Like my favorite blues band. It was my favorite blues musician, or favorite.
I'm the same
rapper. Favorite punk band. Misfits, by the way. See, like you bench, I like MSPX, No Effects, stuff like that. I consider that more of the second wave. I was more
definitely
the early 8, like Dead Kennedys, Misfits, Bad Religion is more second wave. Bad Brains.
Bad Religion is still back there. Yeah. Bad Religion is pretty cool.
But you ever heard of Death? The band called
Death?
Yeah.
I don't think so. No. I feel like I'd remember that.
They weren't around for early 80s. 3-piece band. They did 2 EPs.
Wait. I think I heard this story.
They did a biography on them. Yeah, it was I think it was
3 black dudes, right? It was 3 black dudes. Yeah. Yes, I have heard this story. I haven't heard their music aside from like that little documentary.
It's amazing, man.
But yeah, I heard that story.
They're probably classic rock.
Yeah, they're like the first punk band unofficially. Like before punk existed, they put out a punk album.
Yeah, it was like 1979, 1980. But
and they also like produced it themselves and everything, so it was legitimately a punk album.
Yeah, I think they recorded it in their bedroom or garage or something. But yeah, they did it all themselves.
That's wild. Yeah,
2 of them passed on. I know one of their sons carries on and like does his own music and like does their music too.
Yeah, and discovered like all their old recordings and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like it's on if you Spotify or even YouTube has all their stuff. I would recommend anybody. Like they're definitely up there as one of my favorite bands. Let's put it that way.
I'll check them out.
They like dance in between like punk, classic rock, and almost a little reggae vibe on some of the slower songs.
Cool. A
Not
lot
I'm
of
not
that,
geeking
like
out.
a lot of that permeated, and some of it evolved into ska, and
Yep.
like Sublime. Like Sublime
Less than
has a lot
Jake.
of like punk and a lot of a lot of reggae in there as well. Less than Jake for sure. Less than
Bad
Jake is
Brains.
from Gainesville. That's where I'm at now. Is
Yeah.
Gainesville. Like they're from here.
That's weird. Yeah, you actually, when you come to that, you went from Buffalo, New York, the home of Cannibal Corpse, down to Florida, the home of Deicide, the home of Morbid Angel.
Mm,
You were walking the
yeah.
path of evil, my friend.
One that's really interesting to me, like this might be a controversial pick. I don't know, but when I was coming up, in high school and stuff, um, Dashboard Confessional was blowing up, right? Like he had his radio hit, and he was just everywhere, and he was touring the world and all this stuff.
I remember.
But I was living in Orlando at the time. I was an Orlando kid for a lot of that time, and he's from there. And before he was in Dashboard Confessional, he was in a band called Further Seems Forever, and they were amazing, and I was a big fan of theirs. They're an incredibly like technical band. Like their guitarist only listens to jazz. Like they had a really interesting sound. So he started out with them, and so I knew him from that, right? And then he blows up with Dashboard Confessional, and he goes off on tour, and he does, and his coastal tour becomes a U.S. tour. His U.S. tour becomes a world tour. Like it just got away from him, and he just had like the craziest year or two, right? And then his big tour ends at the House of Blues in Orlando. So he's coming home for his final show of this tour that changed his life, right?
Right.
And I just remember being in that crowd. And again, it's not that he's the greatest performer or anything like that. Like it's not that he's incredible, but it's the fact that
Well, made it.
he was a hometown boy and he made it. That's our guy. He's from our town
Yeah.
and he made it, right? So he shows up, he comes out on stage, he starts strumming his guitar, and the entire House of Blues concert hall, hundreds of people just start singing his songs to him. We can't hear him. Through the mic, through the speakers, we can't hear him. It doesn't matter. We're singing to him. And everybody was singing every word of his songs to him. And I just remember standing there and feeling the energy of the room and watching him like step back from the mic with his jaw dropped. And at one point, even stop strumming his guitar and just standing there and listening to hundreds of people sing his songs back to him as a welcome home kind of deal. And dude, it was like that. I'm like, that's what music is about, man. Like this right here. So like I'm kind of ride or die for Dashboard. Like ever since then, like he's got a special place in my heart. I
Yeah.
haven't listened to him in years, but it's just one of those things where it's like that moment, that the energy in that room is just something that I'll never forget. It's crazy.
I felt that energy a few times at shows. I felt it recently. I went and saw Anthrax last month, and I got really close. I actually got a few good pictures.
Anthrax is still playing shows, dude.
It was a 40th
Wow.
anniversary tour. It was them, Black
Wow.
Label Society, and Exodus.
That's wild.
That was a badass. Like even being older, they rocked it, man. I actually got a picture on a video of I was recording the mosh pit during the song "Metal Thrashing Mad," and right at the chorus, I panned back to the stage. The singer walked up and pointed right at me while I belted the chorus, and I'm like probably 10, 15 feet away. I'm just like, cool. I've been blessed by the metal gods tonight. They want me representing them like I said I would. They approve. But yeah, well, during that, I'm not a big fan of crowds, even though I can suffer them for those kind of moments where like it wasn't about the people around you, about people moshing, sweating, people kicked in the head by body surfers. But it's like I caught that moment where everyone was just on the same vibe, man. It's like it was during a guitar solo. And just everyone had hands up in the air, just you catch that live shows. People,
you feel that vibration move through the crowd. You can like everybody's on the same frequency in that moment.
You feel it pushing from the stage, out of the PA systems, out of the amps, like a big wall of sound. That's how I felt seeing Nine Inch Nails last year. And I was close to that too. That's why I go to concerts by myself a lot of time because I like getting close.
I used to too. Yeah. I like getting close. I also like, I don't mind being far away if I have like I said earlier, a nice table, a server, whatever it is. Like I can have like a nice little like sit down experience. But if I'm standing for a show, I want to be right up front. I want to see everything. I want to experience everything. Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned mosh pitting. I retired for a long time because I was doing it from like 13 on.
Retired? Were you getting paid to mosh?
No, I did it for fun because I thought that was fun to kick somebody's ass or have them kick my ass. Well, I did. I would go to concerts. I would just sit back. Either that or I would just like hang along the side and just like either help people get up or, create a barrier so they stay in, contain it.
Exactly. But there's different roles that you can choose to play in the mosh pit, right? Like you can be the guy on the edge, just kind of keeping people safe. This person's not paying attention, and there's like fists getting thrown near their head, so I'm going to protect their head. Like, and then sometimes you're in the mood and you run in and shove some people and throw some kicks or something. Like,
which the desire for that kind of ebbed when I stopped drinking and getting wasted at shows. That and I can remember them too. That was always great. But during Anthrax,
I was
they started playing.
Sober.
See, God,
I was always sober in the mosh pit. You got to keep your wits about you.
No, wits or senses right out the window. And even I'm not saying I'm drinking underage, but I would show up in these mosh pits in certain conditions where I wouldn't really feel much and didn't care who I was swinging at. But actually, my 21st birthday, Slayer mosh pit. Ugh, yeah, that was a rough night. But
that's heavy stuff.
Yeah, don't go in a Slayer mosh pit. They hurt. Or a Pantera mosh pit. They hurt more. Bigger people. But so I'm standing there by the wall or whatever, and they start playing Caught in the Mosh. And I usually drink a lot of caffeine at these shows to get all hyped up, and I was on my second Red Bull. Like, screw it. I'm in pretty good shape. I'll just try not to stand there too long. And I started moshing my ass off. I made it about 30 seconds before this big gorilla dude just clotheslined me from behind. I hit the floor. He helped me up. I'm like, all right, dude, I know my place. I'm out. Bye. Back to retirement.
Yeah, I've seen some bad accidents in the pit, man. I've seen some stuff.
Oh, yeah. I've seen bones broken, teeth knocked out.
Yeah, safety first, kids. Safety
and then
first.
Body surfing. I don't know what would possess somebody to do that.
It's fun, man.
Going across a handful of strangers, literally.
Yeah.
And and to worry about them dropping you ripping your clothes off.
You gotta detach enough to know that like somebody's gonna grope you as you do it. Like,
and more likely you're gonna kick people in the back of their heads because they're trying to watch a show.
There is that. Well, no, I'd be doing it from the stage if I was doing it at all. It's like they're gonna see me coming.
God, I swear I still have a little PTSD.
I was a lot lighter. Back then. That's another thing. Like I weighed like nothing compared to what I am now. So it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, so many memories of getting close to the stage and just keep my head on a swivel. So I'm trying to watch a show, trying to get down, sing along, but I have to turn to make sure there's not a boot coming at my face.
Yeah,
plenty of times.
I've seen plenty of people dive off of that stage and not get caught either. Like people just move out the way and let them hit the floor, man. Like, you gotta be careful.
When I went to see Misfits last year at Ride Fest, Bad Religion opened up for them. This one person was staged, was crowd surfing, and I saw them coming. I just saw their backs, just like this weird oval shape, because they had their like legs and feet up in the air. That's all I saw coming at me. I'm a pretty strong guy. I go to catch him myself, like the middle of the back. I get crushed like an accordion. I'm like, what the? I am not this weak. I get up. This dude's like 6'4", almost 300 pounds. Looked like a solid guy. I'm like, why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to us?
That dude should not be crowd surfing. Yeah, he should not be crowd surfing.
I wish someone would record that because I did a straight up cartoon act right there. I catch this guy like I got him hit. Oh no, this cannot be.
You got flattened like Christopher Lloyd in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
What was it? A safe or a piano or whatever?
No, it was what's it called? Is that a steamroller? Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I like that.
You got him with the dip first.
Yeah, you got him with the dip.
Remember me, Eddie? When I killed your brother? I haven't watched that movie in a long ass time.
That movie holds up, man.
I bet it. Like just thinking about it now, like there's no way it's not a good movie.
Robert Zemeckis, man.
Yes, Back to the Future.
He knows what he's doing.
Actually, when it comes to yearly things, I've been kind of stuck on this one where every year I'll watch a movie trilogy. Last year was Back to the Future. I think I did the Nolan Batman trilogy before that. I'm thinking of doing the first 3 Indiana Jones movies this year. The 3, not the 4th or whatever's coming out next.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Temple of Doom. I usually skip that one and just go straight to 3 after the first one.
It's the weakest out of the 3, but it's definitely the darkest though. People getting
I
their
don't know how I
hearts ripped
feel
out.
about this new one coming out, man. Like, I feel it's kind of unnecessary, but whatever.
Well, it's all unnecessary. These decades later sequels. I mean,
Yeah.
which one was good? I didn't like Bill and Ted, Coming to America. Actually, Beavis and Butthead. Now we're back to them. They're Do the Universe. That was really funny. Like I thought that was going to be like more sanitized and modern, but it's the same offensive. Yeah.
That's cool.
And now they have a new series out where it's the same kind of format with the episodes, but instead of watching music videos, they do like YouTube videos, TikToks, and stuff like that, and they do commentary for that. And, my friend Classic Cage here. Hope you're well too, friend. I believe you're doing a watch party this afternoon with Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the movie I suggested. She's never seen it before, and she does cult classics. And the first movie I thought of when I thought of cult classics, other than The Room, is Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the 1988 classic.
Yeah, I had a friend a few years back who made me watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
It's a childhood favorite, man.
Yeah.
You afraid of clowns?
No, not particularly. No, can't say that I am.
Same, but I understood the creepiness of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they can definitely be creepy if you make, I mean, it's sure.
Right.
Pennywise. Yeah.
There has been one clown that freaked me out. You ever seen the movie Brave Little Toaster?
Yes.
The nightmare sequence with the firefighter clown.
Oh, yeah.
That freaked me the fuck out when I was a kid. That was the only time a clown.
I must have blocked that out. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I must have blocked that out because I didn't remember that. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, like even then, I was a horror fan, and seeing that part, Jesus, like he looked menacing. Same thing with another dream sequence, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This clown was like destroying his bike or whatever. For some reason, I don't know if it's like just clowns in dreams or firefighters or doctors, but damn, creepy. So, before we run out of time, Adrian.
Yes, sir.
What I hear, hold on a second. Adrian feels my pain with. What time's that again? I know it's like soon-ish, if I remember correctly. I'm in her Discord and she posted it. But back to you, Adrian. I heard you think I should do Audible books.
Yeah, man.
In particular, yours. I've never been able to, I've never tried doing that. I guess you consider me neurodivergent. I've always had focus attention issues, ADHD, slight dyslexia. In school, I was the one person.
A nice little list going there, man.
Yeah, suffering succotash. No, but even in school, like you don't want to pick me to read. I will like get like 7 words in and just my brain will just derail everything. Sure, but since you were cool enough to come on my stream, I said I had a surprise for you, right?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Time for that surprise, Adrian. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
I am going to, for the first time ever in my life, give you a little excerpt of me doing Audible.
Okay.
Would you be interested in this happening?
Yeah, man. Bring it on.
I can't promise anything great here. Not only what I didn't want to do for you, but I also wanted to because, like, this book I'm reading right now has impacted me, like, for the first time in a long time as a reader. And also just as a writer for the first time, it just made me like, oh, God, I want to replicate this or just, like, learn from it. Okay. It is this novel by Cormac McCarthy called Blood Meridian. You ever heard of it?
No. But
I know you've heard of Cormac McCarthy.
I thought you were about to start reading from my book.
No. Do you want me? Well, you know, I should have done that, but
no,
well, let's see how you feel about this first. We're getting into that shit. But
this will do. Yeah.
Anyone who's not familiar with, some people are familiar with his novel, The Road. We know Richard's familiar with that book.
Oh, sure.
That's the only other book by his I ever read, and I like that when it's bleak. I kind of like bleak, and I like his concise way of storytelling. I guess people say I kind of have that with mine, and I don't like over describing things. That's why I kind of do it like that, and also because of my neuro problems. Just constant overthinking every single word, every sentence. Sure. So I don't want to overdo anything. I don't want to be diarrhea of the word processor, like a certain person named S. King. Sorry, that's too obvious. Stephen K. Another Simpsons reference. That's 3 so far this episode. Try to catch up. Can't talk. But anyways, Blood Meridian is hands down the greatest and most definitely the goriest Western I've ever read in my life. I'm not a big fan of Westerns. I like some of the older movies, the Eastwood, spaghetti Western Dollars trilogy, so Unforgiven, stuff like that. My dad's a big fan of it, so I watched all that shit growing up. Bonanza, The Rifleman, Rawhide. So I've seen my fair share of Westerns. Can't say I love it all, but anyways, this is like magnificently, yeah. Like I still like some Louis L'Amour.
Tombstone is dope.
Yeah, that's another great one. Western movies. Well, yeah, the Fistful of Dollars, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the older ones. I like The Quick and the Dead. Sam Raimi with Sharon Stone and Gene Hackman. Russell Crowe's in it, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But this one is like a magnificently.
Oh, you know what? Now that you say Russell Crowe, the remake of 3:10 to Yuma with him and
that
Christian
was
Bale. That's a good one too. Yeah.
Damn, I forgot about that one. Magnificent Seven. But this one is the Western I've always wanted to see in a movie. It's like a magnificently written splatterpunk Western.
Okay. All right.
But I'm not. Let me describe this first for everybody. The story itself centers around a 16-year-old named The Kid. He runs off and he joins a gang over by like the Mexican Texas border who are charged to protect villages from like marauding Apaches. Local governors on like pretty much both sides of the borders, but they start going to Mexico. They were collecting scalps for gold from these Apaches. So they would just ride out and just slaughter them, take their scalps and, get gold for it. Well, as the novel progresses, they just this gang just quickly disintegrates into this just murdering peaceful natives, attacking the same villages they're supposed to be protecting. And near the end of the story, they start taking on parts of the Mexican army. It's just bloody nightmare the whole time, just real raw, and you wouldn't expect it from such a popular mainstream writer. It came out in the 80s. I don't know how popular it was back then. But this excerpt,
sounds intense.
Even for me, I'm not going to describe him because I know you're into that kind of stuff, but I'd have to like pause, like, holy shit. And just the way like he goes like so concise with his like storytelling. When he gets to like the real visceral parts, he opens up a lot more. And that's kind of how I do it. So I'm definitely vibing with. But the excerpt I'm reading right now, this is like where they first start off, and they're about like after defending this village, and they decide they want to just start taking random scalps and getting money for it without it being for any just cause. And they're riding out in the desert in Mexico across to slaughter these peaceful natives over by this creek or whatever in a really horrific fashion. And just the way it builds up to it, it's like, it's hard to explain, man. It's just so dark and just build up. And you don't even really know what they're going to do next until they get to the place. And basically what I'm about to do here is build up close to the narrative to this horrific slaughter moment. And before I do that, I'm not going to get it. There's nothing graphic about this. I'm just, the language just hit me in a profound way. And I want to try to mimic it through narration. I'm going to do it slow because I'm live here and nerves and all that shit. And I kind of want to do a good job. So bear with me, folks.
Hilarious, dude.
This is my first attempt at being a audiobook narrator.
This is your audition for my book. This is your audition.
Oh, God. All right, hang on a second. Let me get this book up. Oh, come on, of course. All right, I'm going to take the headphones off just so I can concentrate on all this shit. So I'm not going to be able to hear you. It's not going to be very long. It's like 2 paragraphs. This is an excerpt for everyone out there who's going to try to shut this down over any kind of copyright. This is from the novel, an excerpt from Blood Meridian by the author Cormac McCarthy. And oh shit, here we go. Showtime. Figaro. For the next 2 weeks, they would ride by night, They would make no fire. They had struck the shoes from their horses and filled the nail holes in with clay, and those who still had tobacco used their pouches to spit in, and they slept in caves and on bare stone. They rode their horses through the tracks of their dismounting, and they bared their stool like cats, and they barely spoke at all. Crossing the barren gravel reefs in the night, they seemed remote and without substance, like a patrol condemned to write out some ancient curse. A thing surmised from the blackness by the creak of the leather and the chink of metal. They cut the throats of the pack animals and jerked and divided the meat, and they traveled under the cape of the wild mountains upon a broad soda plain with dry thunder to the south and rumors of light. Under a gibbous moon, horse and rider spancelled to their shadows on the snow-blue ground, and each flare of lightning as the storm advanced, those self-same forms rearing with a terrible redundancy behind them, like some third aspect of their presence hammered out at black and wild upon the naked grounds. They rode on. They rode like men invested with a purpose whose origins were antecedent to them, like blood litiges, an order both imperative and remote. For although each man among them was discreet unto himself, conjoined they made a thing that had not been before, and in that communal soul were wastes hardly reckonable more than those whited regions and maps and where monsters do live, and where there is nothing other than the known world save conjectural winds. They rode on. I probably could have rehearsed that better, but yes.
No, that's dope, man. I dig it. I like the way it's written. It's really cool.
And it just leads up to this horrible scene too, man. Oh my God. Even as
I was gonna say, like, it's very clearly a Western, but there's such a horror like tone to it. That's really cool.
I just love that line, a thing surmised from the blackness by the creak of leather and the chink of metal. It's almost gets a Western music kind of vibe to it. Like they're riding up, about to do some shit. Regulators.
Yeah, it definitely sets the scene really well. I like it.
So, do I have the job? I'm pretty sure I'll be a little more rehearsed.
How much do you cost? That's the real question. Like, how much is it going to cost me?
Probably less than what you'd see on people from Audible, and I'd at least try harder. I know a certain author that paid too much for Audible, and the woman did it and sounded like a robot voice.
Yeah, and maybe they used a robot and try to pawn it off as their own.
Well, the thing about the writer, she has a personality of a robot, so maybe it wasn't.
That's fine. Yeah, maybe it just like comes through the text.
Yeah. Oh well, but at least my friend here is with me, the Man and No Name trilogy, which I have on Blu-ray. Hell yes. Yeah, but when it comes to like favorite films, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Seven Samurai, probably my favorite. Mint Ghost, what up, my fellow movie buddy? We do watch-alongs in my private Discord. You're invited to, Adrian, one day if you ever want to come.
Oh yeah, right on, man.
We've been watching, well, either comedy or horror. It's either between a horror film or like MST3K. It's usually what we do.
Count me in on the comedies for sure, man.
And to anybody out there
who follows of all time.
Yeah, actually, if you're gonna come, you got to pick the first movie though. Them's the rules.
Yeah.
And that's anybody else out there who's listening. If you follow me anywhere, hit me up if you want to do this. I mean, like, I usually watch movies alone. I've always have. It's kind of how you do it anyway. You're gonna talk through the whole thing. And also, like, I'd say since about 14. Yeah, the first movie I saw alone, Phantom Menace, in the theaters. And just ever since then, just wandering around the city. Nobody wants to go see anything. That's how I saw some of my favorite movies, like Dark City. This really messed up movie called The Nightingale from Australia. There's one place on me that's like art house, like indie stuff. So I've been lucky in that aspect. Sure. And I'm always out there seeing stuff. Cool. But now I'm getting out of that, kind of getting the new things, be a little more social with people. The reason why I'm doing this, and that's why I like seeing people from different aspects of my life. You, AuthorTube, same with Mama Ward here. Same with the cult classics. I think I met her through July's. This guy, comic books, same place. And that's where I try to like do here, man. Like to talk about cool stuff. There's so much shit out there that divide people, and there's so little of that, but so much of the opposite. And I think
bring people together, man. Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. But since we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, what do you got planned for the rest of the day?
This is, event-wise, this is it for me. At this point, I'll probably start looking for what we're all going to eat for dinner and, feed the kids, put them to bed in a couple hours, all that stuff, just dad stuff. But yeah, man, I'm in the cover design process right now, and that's like permeating my thoughts whenever I'm not doing stuff like this. and I want to give another like one last little pass through the book with a last minute little proofread. Like I believe that it's ready to go, but I'm still gonna do it again anyway.
Do you have a release date yet?
April 30th.
Oh.
Sunday, April 30th is currently my release date, I believe. As long as the cover doesn't delay, that's gonna be it.
So you're gonna have physical copies?
Oh yeah, physical copies, ebooks.
I'm not there yet.
We'll get there, man. We'll all get there.
I'm thinking of printing out a couple of copies of my stories just to give to friends or whatever.
Okay.
We'll see about that though. Maybe if I read a novel or get enough to get a collection together. Right now, I'm just coughing them on Kindle and moving on to the next story.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some more short stories written so I can put out a little collection after the novel comes out. You know, put out another little collection before the next novel. You know,
right?
Have something in between. Maybe two. Put out two collections before the next novel. Just keep people interested. You know.
Do you plan on sticking to a particular genre or deviating that far?
Well, this series is going to be my focus for the next few years, but this series is a genre bender. It's a big jambalaya. Like I'm putting. I just love. I don't like. Okay, so I love genre. I love reading it. I love taking in things written in genre. I do not like the confinement of a genre when I'm the one writing it. Like I don't want to just write a sci-fi story. I want to write a sci-fi story that's also a murder mystery, that's also a fantasy epic just kind of creeping in, that's also a light dark comedy. Like I want to play with all those things. There's a romance in it. Like so this is the series that I'll be working on. Like even the short stories that I'm talking about are all going to be set in the series, but there's a little bit of everything in there.
And I'd love to hear that. That's what I'm all about. When it comes to me always being interested in different things and trying to bring them all together, that's genre, people, cultures, music, all that. And that's how that's true experience right there. And I mean, if you want to just write straight sci-fi, straight horror, I mean,
that's
go
cool.
for it. But all I'm going to say is, if you're going to do genres or cross genres, learn those genres. Learn every nook, every cranny, every tenant, every law before you break them.
Yeah, for sure.
But
for sure.
I'm all for that. And yes, let's mix those things together. That's how we get new things, original things.
Stir the pot, man. Just
like the best stories, like one of my favorite horror films, American Werewolf in London. That is like the perfect combination of comedy and horror.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Hybrids, I love them all. I love hearing them. I love reading them. I love smoking them. Yes, mythic.
Get this, people. Pick it up. 99 cents for this one. 3 sample chapters plus the short story prologue. Get it.
And feel free to drop a link.
Booksbyadrian.com. It's already in the chat.
Yeah, I was going to say, where can the people find you who do not know you?
Yeah, booksbyadrian.com. You can get both of the books through there right now. You can also find everything else through that website. You can find my YouTube channel, which is also Books by Adrian. You can find all my social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. But yeah, if you just go to booksbyadrian.com, you can find everything from there. And there's a newsletter that you can sign up. I send out newsletters every Sunday. I do actually have to write one for today. And that'll keep you guys updated and what's coming up next. That's it.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming, by the way, man. I really appreciate
Thanks for having me, dude.
Man, anytime you need someone on your channel, dude, call me right. If I'm not working or sleeping, I will do it.
Sounds good, man.
As for me, I have stories available. I'm on here occasionally. You can find me in any dark corner, wherever there's an uneaten taco. Or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, not TikTok. I just can't do it. Find me on here, or I have a link tree somewhere. Can't find the link. But that'll be it, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening to my first four-way into an already doomed career in book narration. Y'all have a good day. Stay hydrated. Be easy.
Later, y'all.